Hey, everybody. Thanks for clicking on the video. This is going to be a really good one. This one's going to be about Juno, everyone's favorite blockchain. Anyone in the Cosmos ecosystem always has a soft spot in their heart for Juno. If you don't know what it is a smart contract blockchain within the Cosmos ecosystem that attracts many notable developers and builders. Multiple NFT platforms exist there, multiple dexes exist there. They have staking derivatives, other DeFi protocols, and also major DAO tooling, some governance improvements that don't exist elsewhere in the Cosmos. And I've got Reece, who is development lead for Juno, and he's going to tell us all about the most recent upgrade. It's V13. So thanks so much, Reece, for coming on the channel.
Yep, I'm happy to be here and glad to talk with you about all things Juno.
All right, perfect. I usually start people off with yes or no questions. Then we'll get rolling. We'll get into what you do. We'll get into the upgrade and the major pieces of the upgrade. And then we'll get into maybe some broader Cosmos ecosystem type questions. So first, yes or no question. Are you actually part of the Juno communications sub-DAO?
I am not officially a part of the communications sub-DAO, but I do work with them. So I'm in the chats and I'm in calls now, but I'm not officially on the DAO itself.
Okay. And I'm going to link the most recent space, Twitter space with the com sub-DAO, because this interview is kind of like building off of that, which was a nice, efficient layout of
Mhm.
the most recent developments on Juno. Number two, are you full-time on Juno, committed to work on Juno right
Yes,
now?
full time. Yep.
Okay. All right. Prior to being involved in Cosmos, have you worked in other ecosystems like Ethereum or something else?
No, Cosmos was my first one, so
Wow.
it's really exciting.
All right. As far as the upgrade goes, will typical users like me be able to notice any differences with the recent upgrade?
No initially, but as tooling is built, yes.
Oh, okay. So eventually we'll realize, oh, this is from
Yep,
V13 upgrade. Okay.
exactly.
Good to know. And last question, either by face or by voice, would you be able to identify Putmos?
No comment.
Okay. All right. It might be you. I was in a Discord chat, like Putmos's Discord. They have poker games. So I was playing and Putmos was in the chat and I wanted him to talk so bad, but he did not. He was just there. So maybe one day, maybe at Cosmoverse, he'll rap or something and we'll know
Yep.
who he is. All right. I got some just kind of light questions. And just so people can get to know you, but you are pretty active in the ecosystem. I wish more devs were like just on more spaces like you and Jake as well, just to communicate with the people that are sticking out the bear market. But just for people that don't know, what do you think your biggest contribution is to the space before you got connected with Juno full time?
So before I got connected with Juno full time, I was working at the Craft Economy project, and that was to mix a Cosmos SDK chain with Minecraft itself in a permissionless manner. So this was like a massive undertaking, and I took the full lead. This was my dive into Cosmos, where I not only need to figure out how Cosmos works, but I need to figure out how to connect Cosmos to a Web 2 platform that can scale to thousands of players, and I have a few months to do it. So that was really exciting. But during my time there, as I continued to learn Cosmos, I decided to start writing bots and different tooling for validators and things. So my biggest contribution before I joined Juno was definitely the Cosmos GovNotifs account. So that does governance notifications to about 1,500 people. And anytime a notification comes through, you're automatically sent within 15 to 30 minutes. That came up before apps like Kepler and others had notification systems. So that was needed. That was useful for me as a validator. And then since then, I've worked on other bots and things such as the Spaces downloader, which automatically downloads those spaces. So that was my contributions before I headed over into Juno.
Cool. All right. And I've talked to other developers that really consider Juno to be kind of like the future DeFi hub for all of Cosmos. And they swear by Cosm Wasm, it's so important. But would you be able to explain kind of in a non-tech way the actual significance of CosmWasm, or maybe where an end user doesn't realize they're interacting with that tech, but it's helping them with their experience or just functionality?
Yeah. So if you're actually doing something on chain that is not boring, like just sending funds or something, you're probably interacting with CosmWasm. So a game that is built there is built by someone through CosmWasm. If you're building a DeFi app, you're probably using CosmWasm on most chains other than like Osmosis, for example. So,
Okay.
you know, on Juno, well, I think that being a DeFi hub is great to launch new products like White Whale and then go launch your own chain. It's also important to make sure that we build the tooling for everyone. So DAOs should be able to use it, DeFi, games, marketplaces, NFTs. That's the point of being permissionless, is that we're not focused on one area. We're focused on building great development products for other developers to then build off of with other great features. So that's kind of how I see it. And let's be a hub of builders rather than a hub of just strictly DeFi. If you want a hub of strictly DeFi, you should go look at Osmosis. Now, of course, you can still build on Juno and then go launch your own chain. I think that's the best way to move forward, depending on what your product really is for the users.
Got it. Yeah, no, Juno's interesting because it's kind of a new chain. I consider it to be a new chain also. It's like what, a year and a half since mainnet launch.
About
They're
that.
they're already on their second DEX, right? They've got several NFT platforms, and they will probably have more because there's
Mhm.
definitely wide open room for competition on the chain, multiple gambling applications on chain, and
Mhm.
then of course there's DAO. So Juno is just that chain that everyone is keeping an eye on, right? Really, everyone that I talk to, even people that are from Terra, they watch Juno very, very, very carefully. So um, maybe just so people can get an idea more of what you're doing for Juno, it seems like what you're doing is a lot different than someone who wants to come and build a specific app. Maybe you could talk about how your work is kind of spans, has a much greater scope than someone coming in just to deploy a contract or an app.
Yep. So the average developer is going to come in, they're going to learn some CosmWasm, they're going to launch a product, launch a front end, and build off a game for like yeah, a game, for example. So they're focused on a very niche thing. My role at Juno is to make sure that that experience is not only as seamless as possible, but as seamless as possible for anyone that wants to build a D app on Juno. So I'm helping write the documentation, I'm helping build out the products that you are going to build off of with CosmWasm and give you that core feature set of, hey, these are really cool. Let's leverage this in some game aspect or in a business model that we can't build anywhere else because of the great features we have at Juno. So my role is more management, and then with that is like core development for you to build off of. And that's important because I have to have a broad sense, but then also understand the specifics of what these different applications may need and different use cases that we could see, come up with these ideas and put that out there so that way that developers that maybe have the time or want to take on that risk are willing to.
And are you the only full-time person doing that right now, or are there others?
I believe I am the only full-time person on Juno right now, but I know that in the coming weeks with Jake, we'll have the Juno 2.0 paper and we may, continue to hire after that. But as of now, I believe I'm the only full-time person.
Okay. All right. Now, I did listen to the Twitter space where you were going through the highlights of the latest, V13 upgrade, and a bunch of times I heard you say, "Oh, this is going to make it easier for this, or this is going to make it so much easier for that." So that's basically what your role is going to be, I guess. You're basically onboarding more developers. Is a lot of what your work is going to aim to do. Is that right?
I would definitely agree. I think especially with me focusing on documentation, where we already saw the Raccoon Bet guys, they were having an issue with one of the new modules, and I posted the link to the documentation. They're like, "This is awesome." So my goal is to make it where you're going to come into Juno from other networks, and you're going to want to use our documentation because it's so good. So not only just how to build on Juno, but like the basics of like what a Cosmos SDK chain is that currently don't have any documentation for developers to make your life so much easier. So that's my goal. If I can make developer onboarding easier and faster, like how I would have wanted it whenever I was joining and like brute forcing myself through this, then like I've done a good job. And that's what my goal is. We've got a working team now for some documentation where, hey, throw your ideas in this chat of what you wish you would have had. And if you don't want to build it out yourself, I'll build the documentation. So that's where my focus is currently.
Got it. And for for developers, what would be the alternative to coming to Juno in your mind? Like, who's the, I don't want to say competition, but reasonable alternative for a dev who, has the skill set to work at Juno, but might get attracted to a different chain or even a different ecosystem?
So if you're going to build on a different chain, I would assume you would have built on Terra before the collapse, but now with
Okay.
that collapse, that we're in that kind of that weird area. So I would say Terra, but at the end of the day, if you're building on CosmWasm, all chains that support CosmWasm, you're going to be able to interconnect together. So it's not as much competition, just rather where are you launching first, and then where are you going to be at in the second chain. And if we're not your first chain, if you go to Osmosis because of the DEX liquidity, or if you're on, like I said, Terra, let's try to make Juno where you want to build on that as the second chain because our products are so good. And maybe that becomes your main development hub. So that's what my focus is. If we're not your first, we're definitely going to try to be your second.
Got it. Okay. No, fair enough. Fair enough. This is really good info, by the way. But let's get into the actual upgrade. And I think a lot of people that watch this, they're in the position of just like casual DeFi user or just like general end user like me. Either we don't understand exactly what's going on under the hood, or we don't want to know. We just want to use cool stuff on the chain. So I want to get into the fee share. The fee share, it sounds like a good feature, right? It sounds like this will reward builders for bringing outside traffic onto the chain, almost like an incentive for them to actually push their own product with some kind of marketing. And I think marketing, or whatever you want to call it, education, marketing, is kind of lacking. Is the fee share more than that, or is that about right for the purpose of the fee share?
Yeah, so fee share is like a win-win situation for everyone. Stakers are now getting free marketing through DApps that want to build. DApp developers are now incentivized to market their DApps to get as much usage as possible rather than, a quick buck here or there. And then on top of that, with it's incentivizing executions on contract. So we're incentivizing, three different core areas of let's use the chain, let's market the chain, and every single party has a different value that they bring to the table that they want to see happen. So it's allowing for that, as well as now app developers can create alternate business models. So you don't just have to be a DeFi app. You can build like a game that where the user just interacts with it, I don't know, once or twice a day. You'll collect those small amount of fees, but the more users that you grow with that, you can actually make that a sustainable development area relative to like a DeFi app, which is going to take that small cut every time you do a swap. But blockchain is more than just DeFi. Like, let's build some other cool applications, and fee share makes that possible for developers.
So the fee share, the way that I understand it, is depending on the gas that's used as a result of people interacting with that app. Somehow that results in a certain fee that goes back to whoever deployed the contract. Is that about
Yeah.
right?
So if you think of gas as like the amount of compute, where 100 gas is 100 compute, and 1,000 gas is 10 times more compute. So based off of this, you pay a different amount of fee in a linear fashion. So for most transactions, you're talking about a very small amount. And what we do is, no matter what that fee is, we're going to split that in half, and we're going to send half of that to the contract developers that you interact with. So if you interact with a single contract, that developer will get that whole 50% fee. But if you interact with two contracts at the same time, which you can do in a single message, that 50% fee is split halfway between both developers. So either way, everyone's going to get a piece of it, so long as they register it. And anyone can register for free. If you decide not to, it's completely just tax reasons. So that's why some may decide not to register. But for the most part, I expect most contracts to register.
Okay. And does this part of the upgrade become applied retroactively to existing apps? Are they going to have to redeploy the
So,
contract? How does that
yep.
work?
So for all current apps, you can already register today. You can register it if you're a DAO. If you like, the Raccoon guys have already registered their apps. I've registered a couple of mine. You don't have to change any code on the contract side. You just run a single command. We'll have a web app soon. I've been working on that as well, where you'll register your contract as long as you're the admin or creator of it, if there is no admin, and you begin to collect rewards automatically. for DAOs and contracts which are not migratable, those will need some changes where you'll either need to relaunch your app somewhere else or something because it's non-migratable, where you can then send those funds from the contract to some outer wallet. So we're working on this and trying to see how can we make that experience better. But for now, anyone can register any contract, whether it's migratable or not, and those funds will be there for you later when we're able to get those off into your hands.
Okay. What I like about this is it sounds like someone can deploy an app, whether it's a game, whatever, and they don't necessarily need their own token, right? This will be a new way to monetize, but also, like you said, it's win-win because now they're incentivized to grow their own application because they're getting, you know, a cut of these transaction fees. The stakers you mentioned, it's a win-win for the stakers as well. There are some people who buy a token, they stake it, never once use an app, right?
Mhm.
So what, a percentage of that fee goes back to stakers, or is it just general increase in staking rewards because the chain's getting used more?
Well, yeah. So with fee share, you're incentivizing more contract executions, which means that you're going to get more fees. And so 50% of the fee is sent to the contract, and then 50% of the fee is spent to the stakers. So as
Okay.
more executions happen, stakers are going to receive more fees. Now, this is very minimal, but to contract developers, this fee for their single application can be significant relative to their current income, where this is essentially just free passive income for just typing in a single command and registering your contract.
Okay. What if where does the fee come from actually? Like it's going to be taken out of the gas fee, or
Yep. So
okay, okay.
in Kepler, you send that transaction, and that fee is taken on your behalf already without any interaction from you. We take that in the back end, we split that in half, and then send those to the
Okay.
parties. So as a user, you don't have to do anything, and as the DF developer, you just register it, and we handle all the hard work on the chain level.
So even if you're using an app that's using a token other than Juno, nothing changes as you're putting the transaction through because no matter what, you're paying gas fees in Juno. That's the layer one token, right?
Correct. Yep. And at any time, governance can decide to increase the amount of fee, like to 100%, where all of that fee from gas goes to contract developers. And then at the same time, we can also disable it. And then there's another feature as well, which I have now forgotten. But yeah, so there's different features that governance can decide Oh, the other thing is we can accept multiple denominations. So currently only Juno is paid. Like if I spend gas in Juno, that's paid. But in the future, they may decide that we want to have gas in USDC, and we can also split that amongst contract developers, which is really awesome.
Okay, yeah, no, that sounds really good, really, really good. All right, the next part of the upgrade that I'm interested in is, and you talked about native tokens on the Twitter space the other day. Can you
Mhm.
just explain briefly what the difference is between native tokens, CW20 tokens?
Yeah, so CW20 is something from the Ethereum side, and it's the ERC20 spec. So for us, it's CW because that's Cosmosm, and so that's the difference there. So it's a wrapper that makes a fake token within a contract, and then we store the state there. So like the contract is like the database that holds it, and it's a wrapper in the sense that if I want to interact with that token through a contract, I have to take my request. I have to then send that into the CW20 contract, which then takes that request, unbundles it, and then sends it to the contract. Like this is like, we have this like middle pathway. With native tokens, you skip that whole intermediate step, and the tokens go straight from the user straight to the contract, and then the interactions happen. So this is better from a UX experience, from a developer experience. For airdrops, this is significantly easier. If you want to see your tokens on MintScan, you'll just be able to open up MintScan and it'll show right there. So this increases all of the issues that we've seen with CW20s, and it puts it into a native token. And as a user, you'll notice a difference because apps become easier to use. And as a developer, it's easier because you have less tests, you have less code, and then you don't have to deal with this middleware contract that deals with these tokens. So overall, it's great for both users and developers, and I expect a lot of people to use it. It's a lot more fun to actually build on Juno with.
And this is called Token Factory?
Token Factory, yep. And so to create a denomination, it'll cost one Juno just to ensure that we don't have too much spam, and that Juno is sent to the community pool, and then you can mint as much of that token. You can interact with that token just as you would with any other CW20 token currently.
Okay. I mean, this sounds like it's a it's going to complement DAO nicely, right?
Yeah,
Is it?
so
Oh, go
DAO
ahead.
will be able to use that. So they'll eventually migrate over into native tokens instead of CW20. And we're working on scripts in the backend and some contracts that will migrate current CW20s over to this new token factory module. So we're going to ensure that everyone gets on token factory because it's significantly better than CW20.
Okay, and I guess with all the airdrops in Cosmos, and especially all the small projects that are going to deploy not their own chain, but just on Juno or using Juno to kind of pinpoint where they want their airdrops to go, this will be a big difference.
Yeah, it's easier to airdrop. So, like, if you launch on Juno and you give your token to a bunch of people, from there you'll be able to do a single command if you run a Juno node, and then export all of those holders of that token, and then you can just write a script that goes through each one of those and distribute your new token on the new chain or whatever as a one-to-one conversion. And so I'll be building up that scripting as well to make sure that you're able to airdrop on other chains from tokens that are held on Juno. So the development and building of the core is going to be there, and we're in the very early stages of that, but it'll make it so much simpler within the next couple of months.
Okay, is there a UI for this yet?
There is not a UI. I have built a UI that is really rough, but we are getting some proto buff, like the encoding of how the message need to be sent to chain in a user experience way. So trying to make that as simple as possible. Got a rough draft, but we'll probably see one here within the next 1 or 2 weeks.
Okay, all right. No, I mean this is really good info because I mainly came up with these questions because I read through the Medium article,
Mhm.
the official article that Juno released, and I'll definitely put the link down below. It's definitely worth reading. It's laid out pretty nicely. But the one piece that kind of went over my head a little bit was about the IBC fees. So maybe you could explain that.
Yep. So I do just want to add that I actually do write the blog post article. So that's why
Oh, okay.
I try to give a technical breakdown of like here's why it matters, and then also here's like the different use cases of it. So I try to lay it out as clear as possible.
All right. Well, it was definitely a nice, easy read. It wasn't a typical like I've never gotten through like an upgrade Medium article until this one. So
Well, I
definitely a
am
nice job.
definitely very glad to hear that. So yeah, I try to make it as simple as possible and make sure that the average Joe can
The
understand it.
average Joe.
Yeah, average Joe. So IBC fees is something that a user is not going to actually have to deal with. It's all on the back end again. This is kind of like the fee share, but for relayers this time. So with IBC packets, these are sent with to and from chain, and relayers have to pay this intermediate fee to get the transaction on the other chain. This costs them time, this costs them money, this costs them resources. So the goal is that we would be able to build in kind of like how fee share is, where we're going to share that fee with relayers. So whenever they submit that transaction, they'll get a cut of the fee. If the transaction is successful, then they get another cut of the fee. And if it fails, they'll get a fee for the fact that the transaction failed, but they did at least try. So there's these different use cases. And this is going to definitely complement with our other module we added, which is packet forward middleware from Strangelove. And that's going to allow for a brand new chain to come online to set up a single relayer to Juno and be able to then relay packets to all of Juno's connected chains. So chain A comes online, they connect with Juno, and then through Juno, they can send packets to Osmosis, to Atom, to Stargaze, to any of these other chains with only a single relay connection, which is extremely powerful. And through this, IBC fees will help cover the cost for relayers. And then chain A can also, have a working with other relayers to, hey, here's some amount of this token to help relay, and then we can actually begin to incentivize relaying and make it very sustainable, if not even profitable.
I've heard validators not complain, but always throw out there like, "Hey, it costs a lot more to be a relayer," and this was around the same time that there was like some discussion about minimum fees, minimum validator fees. I remember that they were saying, "Oh, well, some validators that are not relayers, they can undercut the fees, and then eventually we'll be running at a loss, even though we're higher in the active set." Uh, Relayer just means rather than have the transactions on one chain, they're going back and forth between chains.
So with global fees, we'll be able to set a minimum fee for all validators, and then we're going to be able to ignore IBC packets that are being sent. So that way that those are actually going to be fee-less and not cost anything for the relayer, which means that there will be profit with IBC fees. So as you relay those packets, it'll be no cost to you on the Juno side, and you'll actually have that little bit of incremental fees that will come to you for a successful relay. So this is where our focus is, and that will be in the V14, V15 upgrade.
As far as fee share, we talked about how it affects the stakers, right? Um, Token Factory, uh, you said it will affect the airdrops and the ease of airdrops. It might actually encourage more projects to do more airdrops or do them a little bit differently. But as far as IBC fees, will the typical holder staker, does it affect them in any way?
So with it, we'll maybe see more relay channels opened, but Juno is already one of the largest chains with in respect to relaying. So I don't expect users to see much difference other than it just keeps the sustainability of the network, there, so that way that more relayers can come online and continue to actually serve the chain and just keep that going without any, community fund grants or anything like that. So I think that
Okay.
long term it improves, the overall of the chain, but short term users won't notice a change.
Okay. But it sounds like this upgrade as a whole, it really is focused on like kind of long-term economic viability of the chain, which I think it's gonna come into question, you know, even before the market reverses, because people are gonna start to realize as the APR start to dwindle, like how is this token valuable, right? It's nice to get, you know, 89% staking rewards, but there's a half-life to that. And I think what it sounds like to me is now that we're monetizing all this tech that everyone says is the best, but it was kind of given out for free for a long time.
Yeah, it's important to keep the long-term sustainability, like, that should be the front of the mind, either if we're in a bull market or bear market, and I think that now is the time to be building. Let's build in these protocols where we can have long-term sustainability, and if we can make it work in a bear market, then we can definitely make it work in a bull market.
For
So
sure.
those are
Yeah.
the considerations there with in respect to that.
Cool. All right. Any other aspects of the upgrade that you wanted to mention that I breezed over or I skipped?
Another cool thing that's coming up is interchain accounts. So we are now a host and controller of that. So most chains are only, I believe, a controller currently, which means that they can be controlled. But now that we're also hosting, we're able to control other chains. So if you have a wallet on Osmosis, you can now control that through Juno. And as other chains come up, they'll be able to then control on Juno with any message that we have. So we've allowed all messages. So whether that's staking, whether that's fee share registering, whether that's in the future with oracles or token factory, all these different things you'll be able to control from other chains. And we think that that's important, both from a IBC side as well as from a Juno community side of, hey, you can build on us. We're going to have the latest and greatest, and just keep on building from there.
Yeah, it took me a long time to kind of wrap my head around interchain accounts because I always thought, okay, every time I do something, I have to be on that chain and I have to do a separate transaction. Would you be able to give a specific example, maybe like with LPing on multiple chains where the interchain accounts, someone has like that aha moment, like, oh, this is how interchain accounts is going to work for me.
Yep. So the easiest way that I would think of it is, okay, you're on Juno chain, but you want to interact with your account that's on Osmosis chain. You already own that account because you have tokens on that account, but you want to add tokens to the LP. You want to stake it, something along those lines. The idea is that on Juno, you're going to be able to do all of that. So you're going to be able to tell your Osmosis account, hey, stake on my behalf, and then maybe IBC back those tokens or swap on my behalf, and then send those tokens back to me on Juno. So we could have on Osmosis swap your Osmo to Juno, then IBC those Juno to Juno, and now you have that natively, and you've not even left Juno chain. So that's kind of the idea there is to that will be another major increase in UX, and then we could see things with more advanced feature sets of cross-chain swapping and different things with like the new atomic swaps, and just allowing accounts to understand that they're connected together and to do actions because they are the same person under the hood.
And then I would imagine the next step after that, the wallets will get better, right? They'll
Mhm.
they'll be a little bit less clunky. Maybe voting on governance will be a little bit better, right? Rather than going to every single prop on every single chain separately, like you do for most UIs. Now, interchain accounts is really, really, really interesting. I mean, someone who's using Ethereum would never dream that they could use their MetaMask and then do something on Solana or another chain. This is kind of along those lines, even though we consider this one ecosystem. They're separate blockchains completely.
Yeah, that was a really good point of with wallets where you're going to be able to abstract away all of like the interchain from a wallet and you'll have a single account and you're not going to like you'll just know like the main address or whatever and then you can deal with that and do things on all the different chains from a single wallet and you don't even know you're interacting with other chains. So
Right.
UX will be a massive improvement. I mean, that'd be like opening up MetaMask and you don't know if you're interacting with Canto mainnet or with the Ethereum mainnet or whatever. You're just interacting with things, and that's kind of like the way that the interchain is going to go. And I could, yeah, that would be really awesome. So
Yeah.
interchain accounts bring that ability.
I mean, listen, Kepler Wallet's really good for what it is. If you really understand what's happening, how you're jumping blockchains and just from a drop down menu, Kepler is pretty amazing. But
Mhm.
for kind of like onboarding people to Cosmos, most people in Cosmos started somewhere else. So they already are kind of beyond that beginner stage of using, Web3 wallets and DeFi and NFTs. If you're able to abstract that all away, Cosmos might be someone's first experience actually moving
Mhm.
tokens off an exchange and using applications rather than Ethereum or Solana.
Yeah, and we need to abstract away difficulty for users like gas and fees, and you have like these are just confusing terms, and even developers like that I'm helping do like technical support for. They don't understand like how fees and gas like how does the minimum gas fee and my gas and how much gas am I using versus like they don't understand it. Like we need to abstract that away. We need to abstract away interchain and IBC and channels and things like this. And hey, you receive funds on this wallet, you interact with this wallet and at the end of like and then you're done. Like that's what we need for users. I'm working with like a couple friends that have no blockchain experience and seeing where their pain points are, and so far Cato Money seems to have solved a lot of pain points that they've had, but they're still of course confused about Kepler and these other areas, and we definitely need to work on improving those interactions as an entire ecosystem, not just for Juno.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool if there was a wallet like, Kepler's really nice, but I mean, you download the wallet, it's got like every blockchain kind of
Mhm.
preloaded in there. If you like just had Atom and Osmo or just Atom and Juno, and then you could manually put in the um the chains as you get more and more knowledgeable, and those things kind of, you don't notice the pain points like what you said. You want people that are new to blockchain to find the pain points. Someone like me, I'm like, all right, I already know I have to get around these two or three things, and it's nothing for me because I'm just clicking away. But it's good to hear that that's at least being considered, because I,
Yep.
compared to like Solana, and I know Solana is just one blockchain. If you use their wallet, it's pretty amazing how simple it is, right? It's really not that much different than using like PayPal or like Venmo, even. Kepler can't do that just because there's so many different moving parts. And the fact that that's even being thought of now so far ahead of time, I think that's definitely promising for just adoption, onboarding. Um, you know, this is the time to build, I guess, like you said.
Yep. And I think that, something that would be useful for wallets to add, I don't know if any currently have it, but like you would download Kepler, you open it up, you get your seed phrase and stuff, it explains that, and then have like a tutorial, like where it's like a fake blockchain that goes through of, hey, this is your Atom wallet. You're going to send funds to this fake Atom wallet and do like a Web 2 based tutorial and show users how to use the wallet rather than looking through a blog post. Like let's make UX super simple.
I've seen it on the new not stash, the secret shade. They have
Mhm.
tutorials. I would even just like to see, I move my mouse around the app, and if I hover it over something, a little pop-up comes up. Hey,
Mhm.
if you do this, this is what's going to happen, or this is what you're about to do. Like something like DAO, that would be a 10x in terms of user experience, because you don't want to accidentally lock like $10 million in a multi-sig, or
Yeah.
it's kind of easy to screw something up. You might not realize you're screwing something up until it's too late. But yeah, like videos, little pop-ups, or like you said, kind of fake a fake a test net, but for the end user.
Yep. And I think that Our applications that we have now are great, but they're too developer focused. We're building things that are either someone that's already native or someone that is like a developer. We need
You
to
think?
think through users, like very much. So like focus on the users and build that as a developer and like give your spin on it as a developer of what makes sense to you and just continue to keep on iterating. So I
Yeah.
think that that's important. There's a lot of work to be done.
If anyone's watching this, they think, "Oh, Reese, he doesn't know what he's talking about." Go to the Cosmos website, and you tell me if that looks like a completed product or like a brand new website that just got put up yesterday. Because you can't even tell what it does, right? Like, what is Cosmos Network? Oh, it's
Well,
like,
it's the
good,
interchain of blockchains.
yeah. Good luck finding like a customer service number to navigate through there. But yeah, everything is developer friendly, and I compare Cosmos side by side. I just started looking at Polkadot just because I never did, and just their websites, their documents, they're more for me. And I'm like, you know what? That means they're probably a lot more attractive to investors who
Mhm.
don't care what any of this does. They just want to put their money somewhere where they think they're going to have like a, chance at like a 5, 10, 20x. It's so much different in Cosmos where the website, it's not even clear what you're reading. You're like, what, like Cosmos Network, is this like cloud service? Is this a game? Like you have no idea. You have no idea. And that's just Cosmos. There are worse ones also. And then go to Docs, it's in another language.
Yeah, the documentation's definitely lacking for sure. And a lot of the things that you want to do to like actually understand it, again, it's too technical. Where if I'm not with previous blockchain knowledge, I'm not going to understand the differences of Cosmos and like Juno and like these other things. But as a developer, you need to understand the base Cosmos layer, and you're going to be able to understand all these other things. But it's so much because there's so many different things, and so this is an interchain problem, but it can definitely be resolved in more Web two like aspects. We just need to take more
Yeah.
from Web two and then build off that for actual Web
It,
three or Web plus.
it's true. Even like an NFT marketplace, like it has to look like Amazon or like
Mhm.
Target's website or Walmart. Like you can't invent your new way to do online shopping and expect 10 million users in a month. It's just like you said, Web 2 has been streamlined over like 2 decades, right? It's like even more where like things that you click on are in the same place on websites that are completely unrelated. You're
Mhm.
just naturally looking for things, just like the little X's in the top right of the browser. It's got to be like that eventually for wallets, games, you know, uh, DeFi apps, or even just the landing pages for the projects as a whole. Like I want to, the connect your wallet is always in the same place for the most part. They got that right. Now everything else has to kind of, they have to cave and kind of cater to the Web 2 folks.
Yep, we need better design practices and take what's already like been proven out. Like Web 2's been proven, like it works. Let's build the best parts of Web 3 off the Web 2 platform in relation to design and infrastructure and things like that. And so that's where my focus has been as well, was like infrastructure. It's like let's get things like going. Like let's go.
All right. I think we got most of the V13 upgrade. And now, if you don't mind, I do have some questions just about you and
Mhm.
Cosmos as a whole. Um, uh, what do you think a developer like you can do besides, doing a lot of the stuff that maybe is not appreciated because it's in a bear market, it's very technical, how you could actually, you know, bring more value, whether it's education or something else, to the end user who maybe you're not really interacting with directly through your work, right? What do you think there's a way for developers like you to actually do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different areas that need improvement that developers can focus and like you said, education, actual development. They can work with core chains, they can do marketing, they can, come through as a new user. Like we need new users to come in, tell us where they had issues with, like what did you not understand? And then have developers that are there as like technical support of, okay, explain it to them that way. And then actually fix where they had the issues with, where if they're not understanding the differences between different chains, then we need documentation somewhere in the wallets or wherever to make this simple. So like no matter where you're coming from, a tech background or not, you have something to contribute to Cosmos, and then work with someone that is higher up in the stack that's been here for a little bit to begin to fix those problems.
I mean, it sounds good, and I know that's a lot of work to do. And there's
Mhm.
Cosmos, I feel like everything is spread out, right? You don't have like the 20 best devs working on one chain, most likely. And you probably never, ever, ever will. Right. Everyone, like, it seems like, I mean, there's 55 chains, right? You might not even have like the 3 best devs on one chain. So it's Cosmos kind of creates problems that weren't there by
Mhm.
being by this like scaling method. And I mean, obviously I'm glad that they're doing it this way, but it is tough. And I feel like Cosmos will always be a little behind in that regard because they have to bring everything together at the end for the user.
Yep.
All right. Before you arrived at Juno, like there's nothing like a good FUD question on all my Juno videos, but this will be a good one. In your opinion, if you want to share, what do you think is the biggest mistake up until this point? Either mistake that the community made, that was made by governance, or core one team even. What do you think is, before your arrival, what do you think was the biggest mistake in Juno's short history?
Yep. So biggest mistake by far I had just gotten in Juno is Prop 16. I think that that was a massive mistake and was too rushed, and there was too many questions that were not being asked at the time, and it kind of just went through with selective language. And I think that that's the biggest mistake. There is definitely people are working to get that resolved, and there's multiple things that we're currently working on behind the scenes to, like, let's get past Prop 16 and let's make sure that something like that never happens again. And so that was my first time ever interacting with a governance proposal. Like,
Me
I
too.
was like, wow, like this is like kind of big. I had owned a little bit of Juno. I understood smart contracts are great, but I didn't really know under the hood what was going on until much later on. And I think that was definitely the biggest mistake. And I feel like Juno would still be down the same amount, relative to the market as it is currently, whether that happened or not. But I still think that was a massive mistake on the team's part to push that through.
I always think, like, if in like 5 years, if they make a documentary about the Cosmos, I hope that's not in the documentary. I hope like eventually it gets like sorted out. Because if you think about it, it was so weird. And for people that don't know, basically the Juno tokens were distributed by airdrop, and one guy got like 10% of the airdrop. And technically the rules were broken, although it seems like it was done by complete coincidence, where he had 50 max wallets to get the maximum airdrop, and then didn't even vote for himself in favor of keeping his money when they clawed it back. That was so weird to me. I voted yes, and I was like, this is the worst yes ever, because like, since I've been in the ecosystem, everyone's saying like, oh, you can't have a validator with more than a certain percent of the voting weight. I'm like, well, here's one guy with 10% of the voting weight, even though he's delegating to a bunch of different validators. It doesn't matter, right? This is so, I hope that never happens again, because it's almost like you're forced to vote yes, and it goes against like the really, like, it's his tokens in his wallets. It's not his fault that the airdrop was, I guess, errant in a way. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, well, I think that I know I saw a rumor. I haven't checked the actual documentation from the like Juno doc side, but I think that they changed the word wallet to entity after the Prop 16 had
Yes,
happened or something along this lines.
it was
Now,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah, so that's really odd to me. And to say, like, if it was wallet before, then he's completely fine. Like, it was wallet. But if it was meant to, if it said entity in other places and that was just a typo, like, that's understandable too. But if it was completely said wallet and now it says entity, that's an issue, because according to them, then that went through correctly with the airdrop. Now, does it suck that 10% went to them? Yes, but at the same time, there was the whale cap per wallet. So I think that everything went through as intended, and then after the fact of, oh, we messed up on this. But at the same time, like you had said, validators can only have so much percent. There's nothing in the protocol that sets that. So a
Right, right.
validator can have 100%, and whales are going to come in. So we have to live with the whales, and they have a large stake to increase the network. They're not just going to completely drain all of their funds. So you have to think of it, from both sides. And I think that removing the funds was definitely a big issue. And I think that we are going to resolve that, while, there's still going to be that pain point from the past, that we get past that and continue to build on like we did with V12 and V13.
And at the time where Prop 16 went into effect, they basically took back, I don't know, was it like $130 million? Like,
Yeah, it was something ridiculous. Yeah.
it was unbelievable. And that entity didn't even vote for himself. right? He voted abstain or no vote or something.
Yeah,
It
because I
was
believe if he voted, it would have not gone through. So he wanted to, remain impartial. But I don't know if you remember this as well, but they actually moved the funds to the wrong contract address. So the funds went somewhere else that it wasn't even supposed to be, and then they had to do another upgrade to move it to the correct one. It's like, wow,
and I think the
that was just
funds are still
all
sitting
around.
there, right?
They are still sitting there. Takumi has not touched it. At any time, the community can do anything with it. Technically, the community owns it at this moment because it's through governance. So if you're a staker, you have a say in where that goes. And we'll see. We're not going to have we'll have the constitution that's being worked on and that's on Commonwealth, and it won't be retroactive. But then once we have those set values in place, we can go back and say, hey, what do we want to do with this? Where's the best course of action to go? We can work with different parties and see what things have changed now that we're in the bear market. And let's see where are people at when they're most emotional in the downtrend. And let's see if we can, find a solution there.
Yeah, I still think it's really strange. And what actually, I didn't know how to, I didn't vote right away because I kind of, my initial reaction is no, right? Too bad. It's his money now. It's in his wallet, right? But then I started seeing validators voting abstain, like vocal validators, like I vote abstain because they have they're staking X amount of their tokens with me. And I was like, oh no, I'm like, so this is actually like a governance issue, not really a liquidity issue. It's not really an airdrop issue. One person can take over governance with a lot less than 50%
Mhm.
of the tokens. I'm like, this guy's got 10% and he's gonna compound and he'll have more. I'm like, this is such a weird situation. But I voted yes. I think I DM'd the Juno whale. And I was like, I'm like, my sympathy is kind of with you here. And he never wrote back to me, but I definitely voted yes. I have two wallets at the time. I voted yes, and both of them I was like this is going to be really bad because he can't sell those tokens anyway. Right? But what's he going to do? He'll knock the price to zero every time he wants to sell a whole bunch of tokens.
Yeah.
So it's it was just really weird. And then all of a sudden, and by the way, this was known for like 6 months that he had the tokens, right? 5 to 6 months, and then all of a sudden he was a bad actor. That was the other thing that was really strange because I think they were aware that the airdrop was kind of misdirected. I want to say like in like November ish, and then this prop was in like March. So yeah, hopefully this is not going to be like what Juno is known for. Like it fizzles out and dies eventually, like the last validator shuts down his machine like 5 years from now, and it all goes back to prop 16. No one
Yep.
even remembers any other prop already. So all right. Actually, that brings me to my next question perfectly, actually. All right. Let's just say, I know you just started working with Juno full
Mhm.
time. Juno ceases to exist tomorrow. Which chain would you choose to work with if you had your choice, either within Cosmos or outside Cosmos?
So, from a permissionless aspect, like to continue doing contract work, I am not sure. If I was going to remain in Cosmos, it would probably be straight to osmosis. I think that we've seen, they are developing quickly. They're developing on the module side, and they're beginning to interact modules with Cosmwasm. And this is kind of like something that we're looking into. Like, how can we, increase development speed? Where like fee share took us about 6 months to do full testing and development and all that stuff. Like how can we get that down to like a month, and like let's get like features out quickly. And so we're looking at testing frameworks and things like that. And so I think that osmosis definitely has the best thing. Cosmos hubs kind of all over the place, and other chains just either aren't as large or just don't have as much of an impact as what I think, like I would say, the main three currently have.
Is Wawa pretty close to Juno in terms of like tech stack?
So they are running Cosmwasm, but it's a base chain. So if you would have asked me like back before V12, or which was our security upgrade that I did, like yes, it was very similar, but
Similar.
now we are very different from interchain accounts, fee share, token factory, all these other things. Now, of course, Wallbot can add that, but at the same time, it's like we're able to push now as we do have more developers and things like that.
All right. Last question. I know this is your job, so it's a little bit different than someone like me, but what do you like to use on Juno as like as like an end user?
Yeah,
Apps,
so yeah,
NFTs, anything?
Raccoon Bet was definitely my number one thing. Made a lot of money from that.
Did you?
Yeah.
With flash loans or just getting lucky?
No, no, just kidding. Like, not flash loans. I did not do that. No. No, it was actual. Like, I think I made like 7 or 8 grand off of it, and I think I was doing like, I think all in total I have like 500 or $1,000 in, so I did pretty well on that. I enjoyed that, and that was kind of like my first thing of like, oh, smart contracts are pretty cool. Other than that, I don't really use too many D apps. I'm more focused on like building apps. So I
Okay.
mean, like I'm building like a little farm game, like and that'll be a hackathon here within the next couple of weeks as well. So let me build stuff and just kind of things that I want to interact with. I don't really care about DeFi. Like if I wanted to do DeFi, I'll do that on Osmosis or on White Whale. But other than that, like I don't really have a preference to other apps. And most apps are that. And that's something with FeeShare is like, hey, let's build some like actual cool applications because I want to use stuff.
Got it. All right. Last question, then I'll let you go. I promise.
Okay.
I forgot my question.
Oh.
Shit. Oh, to your knowledge, how many different people use the Pupmost Twitter account?
I would say at least 2 pups. It's got to be 2 pups.
Plus you. So 3.
2 pups.
2 pups and you.
2 pups.
Got it. Okay.
All and Don.
I think we would know if Don got a hold of the Pupmost Twitter account. We would definitely know. We would know within a I would say 2 tweets.
I don't think so.
Well, I really appreciate it, man. This was a great. This is the first time we talked other than Spaces briefly a couple times, so this is great for me. Hopefully, people got a lot out of this. There's a big Juno community still hanging in there. They want information, so the comms down that space I'll put down below. Your Medium article I'll definitely put down below, and yeah, that's it, man. Juno seems like it's really like starting to put the pedal to the metal. Now you're in the middle of it, so I'm sure we'll get a lot more updates as well.
Yep, excited. Glad you had me, and glad to get to share to the Juno stakers as well as your community of all the great things that we now have and are going to continue to have.
All right, sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. See ya.